you're stupid if you don't believe in the existence of God. I mean, it's really just that simple. It's really that straightforward. You really have to be an idiot. You really have to be a fool to not believe in the existence of God.
I wasn't sure if I was going to do this one until I saw that clip, but yeah, now I'm going to do it. He also did that thing where they directly call out atheists in the title, and then the description is just the fool has said in his heart there is no God. The intention is pretty clear, which is to provoke. The weird thing is, though, that the original content doesn't really seem to be that. The title screen says this is an excerpt from one of his classes, which is just a live stream he does for his channel members. That doesn't really seem to be aimed at atheists. So why upload this clip as if the intention is to poke atheists in the eye? Weird behavior on display already, and the video hasn't even started.
Natural revelation is evidence or proof from nature or from the world that supports the existence of God.
I don't know why he doesn't go full screen with his face for this video. Maybe this looks more official or something, but that browser, which by the way happens to be Microsoft Edge somehow, stays there the whole time and keeps showing that same image, so I'm gonna zoom in on his face for him. And although the quality might leave something to be desired, people will probably find that a bit more engaging. I probably should have done that with my Ed responses, but I didn't. It just didn't feel right there. It looked so happy down in his corner. This guy, on the other hand, doesn't, because he's not even in a corner. And also because he has a habit of doing stuff like this.
For example,
now I'm sure that's because he's stopping to read notes off another monitor, but regardless, it doesn't come off as cheerful.
We can use the rules of logic, and we can look at creation, can look around.
I'm getting the impression that this video is going to be a lot quicker for me to get through than its overall length would imply. It's not a very short video, it's like 11.5 minutes long, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in my hands that has a habit of stretching out to like 50. But the density just isn't here, so I'm going to guess 30 for this one. We'll see how close I am at the end.
See trees, shrubs.
You went straight to the trees as the very first thing. Why always the trees? Okay, not always, like sometimes it's clouds, sometimes maybe the sunset. That's what Ed did. But there's a reason I call this argument look at the trees. There's so many things you can look at other than trees. Like, I like trees, I'm a trees guy. I'm into trees, I'm all up in the trees. But there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. Let's try something new, get some spice in our lives. Look at the rocks. Actually, forget that. Look at the, damn it.
The sky, oceans, water, land, people.
Well, you had to come along and show me up, huh? What do you think, you're better than me? I could have named those things. Just didn't want to.
Materials.
Yeah, materials, that's a good one. That was actually what I was gonna say. Materials, like, damn it. Don't judge me.
And we say, look at this beautiful creation.
Well, creation's a bit of a loaded word, but sure. Look at the beautiful, all the stuff. Damn, Earth, you got some nice materials on you. What was the point of this supposed to be, though?
Well, if there is a creation, then that necessarily presupposes that there is a creator of creation.
Right, you're correct. Your argument is circular. You're presupposing the conclusion in the premise, which is, of course, why it doesn't work on people. Why are you marketing this to atheists in the title if you're immediately going to shoot down the argument as circular? Unless you're about to say, this is a bad way people tend to present the argument and here's how I can do it better. That might have value being presented to atheists.
Everything that is created has its own creator.
But no, you're presenting this as a good argument. Somehow you think that presupposing the conclusion in the premise improves an argument. And I have to say, in a sense, I agree. For me, as the viewer, it's beautiful.
We look at a house.
Whoa, you're right. That's another thing that is there. Wow, man, you know all the things.
And we see this piece of architecture, and we immediately recognize that there was an architect behind the architecture that created that piece of property.
Yes, because houses are human things. You're making inferences based on things you've learned about where houses come from. And then you make a tenuous connection between this human construction and every random thing in the world, which is not just automatically an appropriate comparison.
We look at a piece of jewelry and we say that There's a jeweler who created that piece of jewelry.
Yeah, speaking of jewelry, we had a big scare with Izet's engagement ring. At some point she realized, wait a second, my ring isn't on my finger, so where is it? Which is obviously a cause for concern. And she thought it might have come off of her finger inside of a glove she was using for food, maybe, in which case it would be in the garbage. So we brought that bag of garbage back in the house and picked through all of it really thoroughly. Very gross. And we didn't find it. We looked all over in different places in the house where it might have fallen off, or maybe she took it off and didn't remember. We spent the whole evening last night doing that, until eventually she found it under the bed. Turns out it fell off her finger in her sleep and bounced under the bed. Very nerve-wracking. It would suck to lose something like that and have no idea whatever happened to it, and have it be a mystery for the rest of our lives. For one thing, for the sentimental value, and for another thing, that thing's made of gold and diamonds. Not a good thing to just mysteriously lose. Thanks for wiping that. Yeah, I noticed that, but I didn't want to say anything. I thought it would be rude.
We look at a car.
Do we need a third example? I think we get the point. That's why I didn't bother actually responding to the jewelry one. It's the same example as the house one, and the car is the same example as the jewelry one. You're just swapping out nouns. Sometimes there's a good reason to use more than one example, if the examples have meaningful differences that provide additional nuance. But these don't. They're effectively identical.
And we automatically recognize that there was a mechanic, an electrician, who built that car, who created that car.
No, you don't. You don't automatically know what a mechanic or an electrician are. These are things you've learned. And likewise, when you recognize a machine or an electrical system as being made by humans, that's again based on you learning things about what humans do. And of course, by comparing it against things around it, which don't show these hallmarks of human activity that you've learned. Although you would say that literally everything shows hallmarks of design, so I would question how you think that you can distinguish something designed from something not designed when you don't think there's anything not designed to even teach you what that is. In principle, anything that even could exist would be said to have been designed by God in this worldview. There is no physical object or phenomenon which would be said to not show evidence of design. Not even an imaginary one, because it being physical is already taken as conclusive evidence that it's designed. You're deciding things are designed by comparing them against a totally undefined concept, non-designed things. There's no comparison to be made against something conceptually impossible. I have no idea how that's supposed to generate meaningful results, but I would say the answer is it probably doesn't, because you're not really generating results through some sort of reasoning process. You said it yourself. You start off calling it a creation, and therefore you presuppose design. So you're not reaching a result, you start with the result you want. And then for some reason you expect that to be meaningful to other people who don't share your starting point. That really is as deep as the argument goes in this case. You're about to reiterate that right now.
Everything that is created has its own creator.
See? So there's no actual argument here. What there actually is a blunt assertion. Someone created this, 'cause I said so. Great, well I reject your assertion, that's not obvious to me. Not even after hearing the feeble analogies that may have kind of been intended to back it up. Although from the sounds of it, I don't actually think they were intended to do that. I think the argument was, the car is created and the sky is created, and we know the created car had a creator, therefore we know the created sky had a creator. I think that was the actual argument, correct me if I'm wrong.
Creation did not just pop out of existence.
It didn't just pop out of existence? It didn't just vanish and cease to be altogether?
It didn't just randomly happen.
I see. Well, we have another assertion here, a less objectionable one this time, at least in certain interpretations. In any case, though, I suspect this also will not be backed up at all.
It had to have come from something or someone.
Something or someone. Okay. So is that you saying a creator does not necessarily need to be a being with a mind and intentions? Creation can be unthinking and unintentional? Or do you mean something like a celestial beaver? It's still a living thing doing things on purpose, but maybe you wouldn't describe it as someone.
There had to have been a creator behind creation. The rules of logic demand that we admit that.
I mean, you're not wrong. If you insist on calling the universe creation, then yes, it has to have a creator because a creation has a creator. That's a matter of just definitional consistency. However, the rules of logic do not dictate that I call it creation or that it is one. Where's that supposed to be in the logic book? You know, man, you put atheists in the title to draw us in, apparently thinking that this is going to somehow be convincing to us. Did you not realize that what you're saying here requires people to first accept the universe as a creation? Which is something atheists are highly unlikely to do. What are your options for that? Simulation theory, maybe at best? If you're starting your argument to atheists, assuming that they already believe the universe is a creation, you're assuming that they're already barely distinct from theists. If at all.
So that is one piece of evidence, you could say.
I guess you could. Those are words that you could say. I have no idea why you would.
To further this support, we can look at the orderliness, the beauty, and the harmony of creation.
So you find it nice, therefore, God? Maybe that's unfair. That's a bit flippant. I'll let you make the argument.
And by logical necessity, we have to admit.
You should stop doing that. You did this in the last one, too. In the last one, you were like, the rules of logic demand that we accept this. And in this one, by logical necessity, we have to admit this. You're invoking the name of logic like a spell, as if you hope it'll make your arguments seem more serious. But instead, it makes it seem like you're afraid to let your arguments stand on their own merits without reinforcement. It makes it seem like you think they're weak, and so you think they need this help.
By logical necessity, we have to admit that the orderliness, the beauty, the inner harmony, how everything works together throughout creation, proves that there has to have been an intelligent designer.
Proves it as a matter of logical necessity. And it's not an argument that gets us to that. It's literally just the mere fact of beauty and harmony and so on. You don't even have to make an argument. It's already logically necessary and proven like a mathematical fact before you even open your mouth. Do you see what I mean? Like, this is why I'm telling you to cool it a bit. It makes you seem desperate. It makes it seem like you're trying to push through with bluster alone because you're not confident enough in the arguments themselves. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm saying that's what it looks like when you do this. You're not doing yourself favors.
There's intelligence behind creation. There's not chaos in creation. There's order. There's beauty. There's mathematical precision, and there's harmony in creation.
None of which appears to matter if we're already just calling it creation because we feel like it. We're already at the conclusion, so no point having the argument, right? I'm just saying your presentation would really benefit from a little more humility.
And that points to an intelligent designer.
I guess the question again would be, who is this video for? It's titled as being for atheists, but I don't know if you know this, atheists are aware of the universe. I can pretty much guarantee that there's nothing you're gonna tell me about the universe that I'm not already aware of. You in particular. And I don't see that as implying a god by default. You appear to be playing the game of, unless the atheists can explain literally everything about everything to perfection, I win. Well, no, that's obviously not going to convince me because I don't think you just write by default and everyone else has to play defense. You have an explanation that you would like to propose, which I don't find any more likely than any other one from the outset. And if you want me to see your explanation as more likely than any possible alternative, well, you're going to have to do something. All you're doing here is telling me your view of the universe and bookending it with that shows intelligent design. You both opened and closed with it, but you didn't make an argument in the middle. I'm not going to play it again, but listen back. There's literally no argument there. It's just an assertion. You really do seem to think that you're right just because you are by default, and that somehow other people are going to agree with that by default.
You don't get intelligence without an intelligent creator.
That's the first time you've mentioned intelligence, but okay, fine, why?
One presupposes the other.
Okay, well that doesn't seem obvious. As with everything else, you're just going to treat it as if it is, aren't you? Go for it, I'm sure that'll work out great.
It's another natural piece of evidence revealing the existence of God to us.
Oh, I thought it was proof, an outright logical necessity. Now it's been downgraded to mere evidence. Maybe if the video keeps running, it'll degrade even further. But yeah, again, notice, no arguments presented. You've brought up some things that people tend to use in arguments, and for some reason you seem to think it's sufficient to just leave it there, without actually making the argument that was the whole point of bringing these things up in the first place. You don't have a very strong conceptual grasp on the point of what you're doing here, do you? You're just saying the things you think you're supposed to say, like a spell, just like you were doing by invoking logic and proof and all that. You wave your wand and yell, "Believe-iarmus!" and nothing happens, because this is not Harry Potter world. Hello? Hey, you good, man? Don't take it personally.
I don't know if this is true or not, but I've heard and read this many times over the years, is that if the sun were even ever so slightly, like an inch or less, closer or further away from where it is positioned, this Earth would cease to exist. Human existence would cease.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you said you don't know if it's true, at least. I did not expect to see this a second time in my YouTube career. This is so astoundingly stupid of a thing to say that I thought I would only ever hear this doofus say it. Link in the description to that video, hopefully. In that video, I pointed out that the distance between the sun and the Earth varies by millions of kilometers during every single year. Millions of kilometers being, you may notice, more than an inch. And one thing that the commenters pointed out, which you may find interesting, is that a human is also more than 1 inch tall. So if your feet were nice and cool on the surface of the Earth, and 1 inch made all the difference, you would die from your head boiling, which I think we can agree is rare at best. Look, man, I get that you don't give a shit about whether things are true. You care about your religion and finding excuses for it, and that's it. So I don't expect you to bother looking up basic shit like this before you say it, but how did you not find this obviously questionable on its face? This is one of the most ridiculous claims I've ever heard. Like, do you have no conception whatsoever of anything you're discussing here? I mean on the level of like, Earth big, sun big, gap big, inch small. Not even that. Didn't even occur to you, because if it did, that would have put an obvious question mark on this idea. And you're expecting me to just believe everything you're saying in this video purely on your say-so with no arguments. Sorry, but I'm gonna have a real hard time putting any stock in the say-so of a guy so dumb he finds this 1 inch thing even plausible.
If it was even a little bit closer towards the Earth,
oh no, he's still talking about it.
The entire Earth would be scorched to death. It would be too hot, and we would literally die from the extreme heat of the sun because of its proximity. But if it was even ever so slightly a little further away from the Earth, then we would also die from freezing. In other words, the sun is perfectly, mathematically precisely positioned in such a way, just enough to provide this Earth with the necessary sustenance and support and nourishment and all the rest to thrive and flourish and continue to exist.
I figured I'd just let him talk because I wanted to get on with it. This is too painful. How the hell is it possible that 2 people think this on the planet? Are they getting it from the same place? Like, is there some apologist that's popular that said this and then they just believed it? I know this guy said, oh, it might not be true, but he's building a whole fucking argument on it. He spent a whole minute talking about how this implies all this stuff, but he never bothered to look it up. He doesn't even know if it's true. He's just assuming it is now because he thinks that'll be a good argument. Doesn't matter if it's obviously ridiculous, and I didn't take a single moment to verify it because I don't care if it's true. But no, let me sign up for this guy's YouTube membership so I can get access to his classes.
That cannot be an accident. That cannot be a random chance thing.
It's not anything, dumbass. Why are you making an argument based on it if you couldn't even be bothered to Google it? Where did this come from? I want to know where this is from. Both of you idiots heard this somewhere. So where?
I would argue that it's harder to believe that that's just a random accident, by pure chance, pure luck, than it is to believe in the existence of a God, a creator, an intelligent designer who positioned it in such a way so perfectly without it going to one extreme or the other.
It's harder to believe that that's random than that it was created. This thing that isn't even slightly close to true, and that anyone with even the most rudimentary knowledge of the solar system would instantly identify as obviously false, couldn't be random. It's so perfect in my imagination. By the way, if you want, go look up estimates of the habitable zone. They vary a lot, partially due to the parameters that are taken into consideration, but they all have one thing in common, which is that the habitable zone is not 2 inches wide.
It's actually, in other words, it's harder to disbelieve in the existence of God than it is to believe in the existence of God.
Oh, you think you earned that, huh? That was the argument that got you there. Those stupid atheists, can you believe they believe such a ridiculous thing as that the habitable zone became 2 inches wide by random chance? What a bunch of dummies. Oh, wow. I haven't seen a video this bad in, well, weeks. But it's really bad, though.
The weight of evidence just from natural phenomena is a stronger argument for the existence of God than any other kind of argument out there that supposedly disproves the existence of God.
Man, you have some gall trying this after that display. You're not familiar with the most basic aspects of the natural phenomenon that you're talking about. Somehow you've gone from having nothing to having less than nothing, and yet you're sitting there acting like you're trying to give me the QED. If nothing else, you got brass balls, I'll give you that.
And that's why the psalmist David says, the fool says in his heart there is no God.
Don't you even start.
I think that's Psalm 4 or 40.
14. Both wrong. No surprise.
The fool says in his heart there is no God. In other words, forgive me for being so blunt, you're stupid if you don't believe in the existence of God. I mean, it's really just that simple. It's really that straightforward. You really have to be an idiot. You really have to be a fool to not believe in the existence of God.
Like I said, brass balls, but that doesn't make it any better. Honestly, man, how in the hell do you think that what you've said in this video earned Psalm 14:1? You think you've demonstrated so conclusively that belief in God is the only tenable position that it's obvious that anyone disagreeing with you must just be a moron. As if you've done anything at all. Seriously, it really is like you think that you can just mutter allusions to arguments, like spells, and your points are just magically made and effective. You appear to have no idea of even the basic point of anything you're doing. It is astounding to witness. Even on this channel, it's pretty rare to find someone who misses the point of even making an apologetics video as severely as you have.
Another natural phenomenon in this world supporting the existence of God is universal morality.
No, I'm happy with the video as it is. I'm not going to kill the pacing here at the end by talking about the moral argument for the 10 millionth time. If it was as funny as the stuff we've looked at so far, it would be different, but it's not. It's a really boring presentation of it. I'm just going to skip it. And he doesn't have some outro on here where he says goodbye or anything. The video just sort of ends. So that'll be that. Thank you for watching. Do me a favor before you go, subscribe, like. If you really like the channel, please do consider supporting. Huge thanks as always to all of my supporters. Couldn't do this without you. Early access email list, list.logicked.com. And I'll see you next time.